This is surely going to be one roller coaster ride, especially because of the close degrees between Mars and Venus and the seventh aspect of Saturn on these two planets. So what will be in focus will be your relationships, your finances and your health. So please don't miss the first 1 minute of introduction of the video rather than jumping to your specific ascendant. Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. We have been doing transits every now and then, and to tell you frankly, I don't do every transit because of the simple reason that some of the transits happen between 50 to 10 days of each other. So for every 10 to 15 days of fortnight to make a transit video, unless it is really important, doesn't make sense, because I don't want astrology to be something which guides every decision of life, every moment of your life, every week of your life. That is not the right way to go. Astrology should be used as a guide, and so looking at or watching every transit video and then thinking this may happen or that may happen is like being on crutches. I don't want you to be on crutches. So what I do is I do those transits which are important, which may bring about some decision making for you, some permutations, some combinations for you, and maybe an important time for some results as well. So this particular transit which is happening of Venus in the sign of Leo, where it may also go retrograde in a few days, and being in conjunction with Mars is very important. One of the reasons being is, if you see the current planetary placements, Ketu with its fifth aspect is aspecting Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn in turn is aspecting both Rahu and Jupiter, and Rahu and Jupiter with their fifth aspect are aspecting the Leo sign, and currently in transit Venus and Mars there. So Ketu's binding energy, negating energy on Saturn, Saturn borrowing some of the Ketu's energy and using its own energy of slowing down, stagnating the results of both Rahu as well as Jupiter, which now are in close quarters, though the degree difference has increased, but still the Guru Chandal dosha is active. And then with the Guru Chandal dosha, mind you, remember both Rahu as well as Jupiter have the fifth aspect, and aspecting Venus and Mars in the sign of Leo will be very important. From a Kalpurish Kundli perspective, fifth house is your gains, is your romance. Venus is the Karaka of relationships and romance. Mars is the Karaka of fighting, getting into issues, rushing into decisions, rushing into challenges, going for the killer instinct. So this is going to be a slightly tricky placement for almost all the signs, some less, some more. The other thing is, because Mars and Venus rule 2 signs each, which means that if any of these signs, which is Aries or Scorpio or Taurus or Libra, go into any of the dusthanas, then that will also bring in its own impact. So most of the signs will have one of these, most of the rising sign, ascendant sign, mean will have one or the other sign in one of the other dusthanas, so that will also be activated, and that's why this is a slightly tricky placement. So let's jump in and see for each rising sign ascendant, starting from Aries going until Pisces, what the current transit of Venus in Leo, which will go retrograde in a few days, and being in close conjunction with Mars, will bring about what opportunities for you, what challenges for you, and what is the specific roller coaster ride for your rising ascendant. Now for Aries ascendant natives, we have both Rahu as well as Jupiter in the ascendant under the third aspect of Saturn, which itself is under the fifth aspect of Ketu. And so both Venus and Mars in the Leo sign are under the fifth aspect of both Jupiter as well as Rahu, as well as the very strong seventh aspect of a retrograde Saturn from the 11th house, which means one area of life which will be activated is because of the close conjunction of Venus and Mars, which means your relationship will be under some duress. For some people, you may rush into some romantic liaisons without thinking. You may rush into some decision making related to your romance. Either ways, either to fall into a relationship or even to fructify or even to go ahead and make a commitment, a long-term commitment in romance. But because Mars also rules your 8th house as well as your Lagna Lord, while Saturn rules your 7th house of relationship, but also the 2nd house of income. So for Aries ascendant natives, Saturn will have a stagnating stranglehold on both Venus as well as Mars. And so any decision that you take in terms of relationship, teamwork, even health can be counterproductive to you. Why health? Because Mars rules the 8th house and Mars also rules your Lagna. So things which can be suddenly coming about for you could be related to your digestive organs, sexual organs as well as connected to eating habits, because Venus is also the 2nd house ruler of nutrition. So watch your diet, watch your relations, watch your health, and be careful how you take decision making during this time, especially pertaining to your relationship, especially related to your health and related to your career or finances, because the 5th house is the house of finance, is the house of gains, and Venus also rules the 2nd house of income, long-term income, even savings. Now for Taurus ascendant natives, both Venus and Mars are transiting through your 4th house under the 7th aspect of Saturn from your 10th house of career, of work, and both Rahu and Jupiter are aspecting the 4th house and Mars and Venus there with its 5th aspect. So the Guru Chandal dosha is not very strong now, but strong enough to have a binding energy on it. Now keep in mind Rahu's aspect on Venus and Mars, while Ketu's 5th aspect on Saturn, giving some of its binding energy, negative energy to Saturn, and in turn Saturn using its stranglehold of slowing down stagnating energies, combining with Ketu's negative energy and then focusing all that energy. A retrograde Saturn is very powerful, mind you, very close to Earth. So the 7th aspect on both Venus and Mars. So here those decisions which you take connected to relationship, because Mars rules the 7th house of relationship, Venus is your Lagna Lord and Venus is also your 6th Lord, which means unnecessarily getting into some problems in the love life, in your domestic life. So this is a slightly more I would say tricky time for married people or those people who are in a committed relationship from some time now, because the 7th house of relationship, committed relationship, and the Karaka of intimacy and relations, which is Venus, are in close quarter in the 4th house of domestic life. And Venus also rules your 6th house of challenges, issues, problems. So in the domestic life, especially for married people or those who are in a committed long-term relationship, there could be some challenges, some problems, some misunderstandings, some fallout. This could either be related to your long-term plans. This could also be related to your domestic life. For example, not agreeing on something related to the home, related to home improvement, related to shifting, related to buying or purchasing of property, related to how you are taking care of or handling your finances. All these things are under focus for Taurus ascendant natives. So this is slightly a tricky time because of Rahu and Jupiter's 5th aspect on Saturn and on Mars and Venus, and the 7th aspect of Saturn. So be a little careful in your decision making, especially for Taurus ascendant natives. Some new things will surely start. However, this is also a slightly tricky placement for you in terms of your domestic life. So be focused on your domestic life. Keep in check your health, because Venus also rules the 6th house, sicknesses, illnesses, and finances, which could be under question, especially related to your career. Now for Gemini ascendant natives, this is a tricky placement from a perspective of both finances and health, and stronger for Gemini ascendant natives than for others. Reason being is both Venus and Mars are in close conjunction in the 3rd house, in the Leo sign. However, Mars rules your 6th house of illness, sicknesses, challenges, problems, and Venus rules your 12th house of waste and excess, visit to the clinics or hospitals as well. So that's why this is slightly tricky placement. And under the 7th aspect of Saturn, which also rules your 8th house. So all the 3 dusthanas are getting activated. So be a little careful about your decision making, especially connected to business or finances. Those people who are in business or do something of your own, do something, for example, have more freedom in terms of your own projects, or are people who are social media influencers or lawyers or doctors, consultants, all those people who have their own practices or have a lot of freedom at work. Even if you're working under somebody but you have a lot of freedom, you're responsible for your own department, you're responsible for your own projects. For these people, definitely a tricky place. You may rush into some decision making, you may rush into some communication which you may send out, which may be counterproductive for you, so be really careful. This is also because both Mars and Venus and Saturn are activating with their close conjunction with each other, the three Dusthanas. The other important thing is that Ketu's fifth aspect is on Saturn, giving some of its negating energy to Saturn. Saturn is in retrograde motion and closer to Earth, and its seventh aspect on both Venus and Mars. So this is going to be a slightly tricky placement, especially connected to the signs which Mars and Venus rule. So here the 12th house is under question. The 5th house of romances is under question because here Ketu is also placed in Venus' sign, and this is the sign of romance and relationship because of Libra sign being placed here. So in terms of how you relate to your team, how you relate to your better half, especially this is not so much for long-term committed people like married couples, that is a slightly lesser thing, but more for those people who are in a romantic relationship or about to fructify or make a commitment. So be really careful how you take your decision making, how you deal with each other, how you deal with businesses, how you deal with projects, especially connected to your career, connected to your work. Now for Cancer ascendant natives, Venus and Mars are both transiting through your second house, where Venus is also going to go retrograde in a few days. Venus rules your fourth house of domestic life, and Venus also rules your 11th house of social network, working in large organizations, working for large causes. And Saturn is placed in a Dusthana in its own sign of Aquarius, but mind you, Saturn is retrograde. So Saturn's strong influence, the seventh aspect, is on both Venus and Mars. But also remember, Ketu's fifth aspect binding energy on Saturn and Saturn's aspect on Venus and Mars. And Jupiter and Rahu with the fifth aspect also aspecting Venus and Mars through a strong inner Guru Chandal dosha, aspecting both of them in the second house of income, savings, livelihood, and where Mars also rules your fifth house of romance and Mars also rules your 10th house of work and career. So income, livelihood, and how you are able to get nutrition at home or nutrition into your home is also important. So family, dependence, domestic life becomes important. Fifth house of romance and change becomes important. So either there could be a change coming your way in your career or related to your career, or something related to projects or teamwork may also come about, which could have a long-term bearing on your capacity to earn your livelihood. So be careful what decisions you make. Especially try and put off any decision where you have to make a change, either in your home environment, home investments, changing of home, just taking any decision related to home which has a long-term impact, which may involve shifting or investments, and taking any decision related to career or change in career, which could also be related to either change of projects, change of location, or change of organization, or change of your job as well. So be careful here because the long-term income, livelihood could also be impacted, especially because the 10th house is also under question here, and Saturn's 7th house is limiting how much you will gain in your income, in your savings. That is for Cancer ascendant natives. So relationship is under focus, career is under focus, health is under focus, as well as income, finances is under focus for Cancer ascendant natives. Now for Leo ascendant natives, Venus and Mars are both transiting through your Lagna, and this is an important placement because Venus also rules your 10th house of career and Mars rules your other Kendra house, which is your domestic life, and Saturn rules the other third Kendra, and Saturn is aspecting with a strong 7th aspect both Venus and Mars. But the other thing is both Rahu and Jupiter in a close enough conjunction in a Guru Chandal dosha are also aspecting Venus and Mars in the Lagna, which means Some decision which you make in terms of your relationship, your love life could impact your long-term stature, designation, standing in society, and how you are seen by others through the prism of relationship also. So be little careful how you take any decisions connected to your relationship, connected to your career, connected to work, and journeys, especially long distance travel is under focus, is under consideration. However, Saturn's aspect on Jupiter and Rahu, while they in turn aspect your Lagna and aspect your Mars and Venus there. Now this becomes even more important because on one hand Venus rules your 10th house of career, but Venus also rules your 3rd house of effort, which means some of your effort connected to journeys, travels could not give you the fruits that you're expecting out of it, not give you the gains which you are looking forward to, not giving you the fulfillment of your wishes and desires connected to your work, connected to long distance travel, connected to your education or educational aspiration. However, this is a strong placement where teamwork is under focus. So here, ensure that you make some compromises or you're flexible in terms of what kind of decisions you make connected to team, connected to your better half as well. This is how the situation will play out for Leo ascendant natives. Now for Virgo ascendant natives, we have both Venus and Mars transiting through your 12th house and under the 7th aspect of Saturn from your 6th house of sicknesses, illnesses, challenges, also competition, which means both the Dusthanas are activated and the 3rd Dusthana, the 8th house, is also activated because Mars rules the 8th house and now placed in the other Dusthana in the 12th house. So sudden high income but sudden high expenses may also come about. So more of suddenness is activated, which could be slightly more towards expenses, suddenness of some firefighting which you need to do at work, suddenness in terms of your relationship, suddenness in terms of getting into an affair, getting into a relationship, getting attracted to somebody, which may have a long-term impact on both your relationship, both your career as well, and your capacity to earn. Why earning? Because Venus rules the 2nd house of income and Ketu is placed there, and Ketu is aspecting Saturn with a 5th aspect, which in turn Saturn is aspecting your Mars and Venus there. So this is a tricky placement in terms of your livelihood, in terms of how you make changes. So here any decision making that you make in terms of going to foreign lands, working in foreign companies, working with foreign consultants is activated, but also bringing in some decision making which you may take in a hurry, projects which you may submit in a hurry without thinking through, without doing due diligence, where you may be called out for incomplete work, maybe incomplete data, not factual data also, where you may be pulled up. Some losses may also come by to you, to high expenses or in your organization because of the project that you do. A lot of rework may also be done, or you may be asked to do, because Mars also means the 3rd house of effort. So some effort is going to waste and you are being asked to redo it again. Sudden short distance travels may also be activated, some of which could be related to your career, some of which could also be connected to your relationship, or even some family members, either health or some support they need, may also force you to make some short distance travel, because here the 3rd house is also activated because Mars rules it. The 9th house for long distance travel is also activated, and both of them are placed in the 12th house. So be careful what kind of decisions you make, especially connected to income, finances, health and travel, because some of those plans could be in jeopardy. Now for Libra ascendant natives, this is a very tricky placement because for Libra ascendant natives, Mars rules your 7th house, Venus rules your Lagna, and both of them are placed in the 11th house of long distance travel, as well as working within corporations which are foreign corporations or large organizations. Now while long distance travel is activated here, on one side you have the 7th Lord Mars going into the 11th house, but Venus also rules your 8th house of suddenness, sudden challenges, sudden issues, and then Ketu's aspect is also on Saturn through the Lagna, from the Lagna, and Saturn in turn, its aspect is on the 11th house and both Venus and Mars there. So the Dusthana 8th house is getting activated, as well as your second house of income is getting activated. So working in large organization, working in foreign lands, especially because why foreign lands or long distance travel, because of Rahu and Jupiter are aspecting from the 7th house and aspecting Venus and Mars with the 5th aspect through a Guru Chandal dosha, and Saturn is aspecting through from the 8th house, from the 5th house which is the 8th to the 10th house, bringing about or activating change connected to working in large organizations. So those people who are working in large organizations, working for large departments, there you may feel suddenly there may be some change which is activated, change in projects, change in team members, and for some people change in your career also, that is also getting activated, which means for some of you some opportunities may also come about which may force you to take a decision, even force you to make a change in your job. So be careful and do your due diligence before you make that change. Secondly, in romance, in relationship, there could be issues, there could be challenges, because one, Saturn from the 5th house of romance is aspecting Venus and Mars here. Venus is the Karaka of love and intimacy. So some intimacy may be curtailed, should be shortchanged or may not happen. Some distance or going away from your better half, from your married partner, especially with whom you are in a long-term committed relationship, can come about. Some misunderstandings may also come about because of Rahu and Jupiter place here and aspecting both Mars and Venus. Venus is the Karaka of relationship and intimacy, and under the 7th aspect of Saturn. So those houses, especially 8th house is getting activated because Venus rules that. Second house of income is getting activated, as well as 7th house of relationship is getting activated for Libra ascendant native. Now for Scorpio ascendant natives, both Venus and Mars are transiting through your 10th house, while under the 7th aspect of Saturn from your 4th house of assets. So here some change coming about in your domestic life, in your assets, or in your ability to earn assets, grow your assets, because Saturn is aspecting both Venus and Mars in the 10th house. Now remember, Mars also rules your Lagna, and Mars also rules your 6th house of competition, of issues, of challenges. So sudden challenges coming at work. Somebody who is working in your team or under you or below you, either with your notice or without your notice, behind your back, spreading some rumors about you, giving some unsolicited, unfactual advice or unfactual data on your behalf, because of which you are called out at work, may also come about. Because of the pressure at work, your domestic life may also be under duress. So you will have to be careful of how you tread this period more carefully, because on one side Saturn is aspecting both Venus and Mars here, while Venus rules your 7th house and Mars rules your Lagna. So if you are not careful of how you handle your relationship, not being misled. Why being misled? Because Rahu and Jupiter from the 6th house of competition and team workers, or those people who are inimical to you, aspecting Venus and Mars, the Lagna Lord and the 7th Lord. So which means because of being too busy in your work or at work, relationships coming under duress. For some people, not for all, but for a few people, there could be some scandal at work, some issue which may come up, because of which your reputation is also at stake. So be careful how you deal with the better half or with the opposite gender, more of the opposite gender rather than the better half connected to work, because that scandal could be costing you long term. So be very careful during this period, because Venus is also going to go retrograde in a few days, and right now Ketu's 5th aspect is on Saturn. Saturn in turn 3rd aspect is on Rahu and Jupiter, which in turn with the 5th aspect aspecting Mars and Venus. So slightly tricky period for Scorpio, so try this period more carefully. Now for Sagittarius ascendant natives, this is a tricky period more because of both Venus and Mars translating through your 9th house of long distance travel, working with people across cultures, whereas Mars also rules your 12th house of foreign companies, long distance travel, foreign lands. For those people who are working with foreign banks, in foreign lands, or with foreign companies, or some foreign connection with you connected to your career, connected to income, that is under focus, because Saturn rules your 2nd house of income, placed in the 3rd house of effort. So more effort, lot of hard work may come about for you, or double work may also come about for you, or if you are planning to go long distance, so in your long distance travel, some span are coming in. If you have to submit some projects to those in your organization, who, especially if you are working for foreign organization, then Be careful of when you're submitting your work, because the work may not be complete, there may be factual errors, or you may have to redo the work. So this is slightly tricky case. This is also because Venus rules your 6th house of competition behind the scenes. So somebody who is working in your team, especially who are not maybe working in your department or in your location, but in some other location, are then putting a spanner in your work. This could also be some higher up who doesn't like you, doesn't like your work, is then becoming more challenge for you. So be careful, especially in meetings, when you're doing meetings, teleconferences, or any communication or email, how you come across. Hold your horses, don't jump into some arguments, don't jump into some unnecessary fights with colleagues, because that will be long-term impact for you rather than others. This could also curb your growth. So over the next 15 to 20 days or even a month, what kind of decision that you make can have a long-term impact in your career, impact on your growth for at least a year or so. Be careful how you play out this time, because for some of you, some workshops can also come about, some opportunity of travel, some opportunity of spiritual travel can also come about. Some long distance travel is also getting activated. At some of you, some short distance travel is also getting activated, more for growth, more for opportunities, but be careful how you take decision making during this time. Now for Capricorn ascendant natives, Mars and Venus are transiting through your 8th house, while Mars also rules your 11th house and Mars also rules your 4th house. Now this is a tricky placement because Mars and Venus are combining two important Kendra houses, which is the 4th house and the 10th house. So here both career Lord is going through 8th house of suddenness, challenges, problems, and your 4th Lord of domestic happiness, domestic peace, both are conjunct together, which means connected to your work and domestic life, you may face challenges on both ends. Sometimes because of your domestic life, you are not able to focus at work, or for some people because of high work orientation, or having too much work, you may not be able to give focus or attention to your domestic life, because of which certain challenges, certain problems, fights, misunderstandings, personality issues. One of you may blurt out, may get angry, may suddenly bring about some complaints, some negative baggage that you're carrying for some time, suddenly erupt, because of which you may get into fights with your better half. So be very careful how you deal with the situation, especially what you say. That could have a long-term impact, and so be careful of what you say in your domestic life, in your married life. This is more for committed people or who are in a committed relationship, as well as at work. What you say at work, what you commit at work. Don't take on more than you can chew, because some challenge which may come about, because of which your project, your work may not be completed on time. So your reputation may also be under duress. Now important thing is Ketu's 5th aspect is on Saturn, stagnating and holding back results aspect. Saturn in turn, with his 3rd aspect, is aspecting both Rahu and Jupiter, the Guru Chandal dosha, which in turn their 5th aspect are aspecting Mars and Venus. So this is a real tricky placement for Capricorn ascendant natives, because Saturn is also stagnating income, stagnating growth, connected to your career, because Venus rules your 10th house, as well as Venus rules your 5th house of change. So because of something sudden issue, change may come about, or you may force a change upon yourself because of mishandling, connected to work, mishandling how you are communicating, especially with higher ups. So this is a slightly tricky placement for Capricorn ascendant natives. So tread carefully the next 15 to 20 days. Now for Aquarius ascendant natives, Venus and Mars are transiting through your 7th house of relationship or partnership, working with team members. However, here Venus rules your 4th house of domestic life, and Mars rules your 3rd house of effort, short distance travel also. So there may be a need for some short distance travel connected to some decisions that you need to make about your home, about investments, about some paperwork that you need to submit. Some people may also want to sign papers connected to committed relationship, or because you are in a committed relationship, you may be trying to set up a house, or maybe want to invest in some property, or invest in some gains, or invest for a long-term impact. So be really careful how you make your decisions there. For some of you, there may be some long distance travel which is also connected, which may be along with your better half. So some of you may travel long distance with your better half, maybe outside of your city, to meet others, meet relatives maybe, or maybe even for some spiritual travel, or maybe connected to some event, even some good event in your family. However, that long distance travel may be undone, your plans may not go well, so be careful how you plan your tickets, how you do your confirmation and so on. Secondly, health may be under duress because of not keeping proper eating habits, not keeping proper sleep, especially sleep and rest is very important for Aquarius ascendant natives because Saturn is retrograde, is your Lagna Lord, transiting through your Lagna, aspecting both Venus and Mars here. So be careful how you take decisions connected to work, connected to your finances, connected to long distance travel, connected to your better half, but most important to health and your financial situation. Now for Pisces ascendant natives, both Venus and Mars are transiting through your 6th house. And this is a tricky placement because Venus also rules your 8th house. Ketu plays there. So one Dusthana Lord plays in another Dusthana and plays with Mars. Mars also rules your 2nd house of income, and both Rahu and Jupiter plays there in the 2nd house in the Guru Chandal Dosha, aspecting both Venus and Mars here, which means you could take some decision connected to work, connected to service, or get into some unnecessary issue with your team members. This is not so much connected to superiors or your same level of people. This is connected to juniors. So juniors may not be able to submit their work on time, or you may not be able to convince them, or you may not be able to communicate well with them because of some misunderstanding. Work could also go for a toss, or you may have to redo your work. But most important, expenses, redoing your work will also indulge you, or sometimes in some team meetings there could be some flare-ups connected to your team members, which means you may have to stand up for your team members, more for your team members rather than for yourself. So in projects, in teams, somebody may call out your department, may call out your team, and you have to defend them. However, be careful of what you say because unnecessarily defending a team member could cost you long term. And this could also have an impact on what decisions you make during this time. So be a little careful, especially if a new opportunity is coming about. Don't fall for big promises that we will give you this or what kind of brand it is. Especially if you are trying to make a career change, be very careful, do your due diligence before you make your decision, because Saturn's 7th aspect is on both Venus and Mars, and Saturn is in retrograde placement right now. And if you look at the overall impact, Ketu's 5th aspect is on Saturn, a stagnating, binding impact. Saturn's 3rd aspect is on Jupiter and Rahu in the Guru Chandal Dosha, and they in turn with their 5th aspect are aspecting both Venus and Mars. So a lot of strong energy of Ketu, indirect Ketu energy, directly Saturn, and it can directly a Guru Chandal energy is on Mars and Venus. So be real careful what kind of decisions you make during this time, especially sudden issues, sudden challenges, some sudden firefighting, sudden paperwork that you need to submit, some sudden government related thing which may also come about, which could make you work overtime, and especially connected to your team members, junior team members is of the essence during this time for Pisces ascendant natives. So friends, now that we have seen this current transit of Venus and Mars in Leo sign, where Venus is going to go retrograde in a few days, has a very strong bearing on you because of the overall planetary energies which are coming by. Saturn 7th aspect on Venus and Mars, Guru Chandal Dosha's aspect on Venus and Mars, and so on. So be a little careful during over the next 15 to 20 days, and if you have any need to consult me, please reach out to me at the link below. Until some other time, in some other video, this is the friend astrologer and guide Irfan signing off.